Amy Winehouse on Dubai I-103.8. I'm Helen Farmer. Loads of you correctly guessing the snowball number. If you've just tuned in, that sounds a bit weird and mysterious. It all will make sense after 3:30, but basically you could be winning 4 tickets to go along and see Cirque du Soleil Cristal. Don't forget, you can contact us here on 4001. That is your SMS. The ARN Play app is free to download, free to message us, and you can listen there as well, crystal clear. And you've got the WhatsApp, same number as the phone line, and we love to hear from you. If you want to pick up your phone and have a chat, we're talking money matters on 04871 5500. Plus, we're live on Facebook now. We are talking expat wealth, or hopefully achieving expat wealth now, with Joe Woodhouse, aka Joe_Family Wealth 101. He's a dad of 3. He's an award-winning financial planner. Lived in the UAE for a decade, now back in the UK, but continues to work with expats here. And he says he's on a mission to help families become financially free. How are you, Joe?
I'm very well, thank you.
What does financially free mean to you and I guess to the wider community?
To me, being financially free means living life on your terms. So being able to do the things you want to do when you want to do them. And in order to do that, you need something that generates you an income that then replaces your day job. So you are no longer trading your time for money, which is what you do essentially when you're going to work and you're getting paid to do so.
I guess other people's definitions might be different. We all have this idea of, I don't know if you read Ramit Sethi, but this idea of like what it means to live a rich life. Like my idea of being financially successful could be very different to everybody's listening today. But there are some common trends and indeed mistakes that you've identified expats making.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about some of the ones that you're like, this just keeps up time and time again.
The biggest one for me is just overspending. So there's this huge disconnect because 60% of expats actually leave the UAE in a worse financial position than when they came here.
60%?
Yeah, 60%.
Which is mad, given that, you know, as an amazing place it is to live, many people come to the UAE to seek a better salary. Obviously, quality of life is great, but a lot of people, the main aim is to go back with savings.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what people say. Everyone you ask, why did you move to Dubai? It's always a financial reason. Tax-free, better salary, better job, better opportunities, create a better life for my family, or whatever that may be. Yet then you've got a large majority of them leaving here with less than nothing. So
their behaviour is not consistent with their goals. So overspending, what are the big areas that you're seeing that on? Because some costs are unavoidable. We know what rents are like right now. I think a lot of people paying for schools for the first time, perhaps ever. That's one of our massive outgoings. What about overspending that perhaps is avoidable?
It's this brunch culture out here, isn't it? It's keeping up with the Joneses. So, look, Dubai is very, very easy. It's very easy to spend money here, as we all know. And it's really just, for me, it's a case of getting a proper system in place to make sure that that lifestyle doesn't completely run away with you. Because you've been here 17 years?
17 years.
Right, okay. You know yourself. You blink and a year's gone. Blink and 2 years have gone.
And then you blink and 3 years have gone and you still feel like you're spending Monopoly money because it's not what you used to grow up spending.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, I had this conversation with someone last week, like, on about the price of a pint of beer. Mm-hmm. Like, they wouldn't blink at 40 dirham a pint, but £6 a pint.
You convert it. Yeah. You never leave the house.
Yeah, well, it's £9 a pint, isn't it? So
Don't.
40 dirhams, £9 a pint. Paying that back in the Nag's Head in your local town, like, people wouldn't have it in the UK.
So overspending, a big one. What else is coming up with clients in terms of expat goals not being reached financially?
So another scary stat that you find here is that I think it's 72%, 72 or 73% of expats don't have adequate life insurance in place.
Why?
2 reasons. One, some people just don't have it. And second is, quite a few people have got an old policy that they've had years ago that they had back in their home country. And this is not just aimed at the UK, many different countries around the world, that those insurance policies that you took out when you was a resident in country X may not cover you here. And many actually don't. And a lot of people aren't aware of that.
It's also a really boring thing to spend money on, isn't it?
Yeah.
But why should we?
Well, this is the thing. So in the grand scheme of things, if you start investing today or you start investing in a month's time, over the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years of your life, is it going to affect it all that much? Probably not. However, if you don't have proper life insurance in place today and you have children and you die tomorrow, that's too late. Like, there's no coming back from that.
Joe Woodhouse with us today. You lived in the UAE for a decade, now back in the UK, but doing an awful lot of work and work with people here. Would you mind telling us the biggest mistake you made financially when you were in the UAE?
I've got a couple.
Okay.
I fell into this trap. I fell into this the expat trap, as I call it, of just spending too much money. And I moved out to, when I lived in Abu Dhabi, I moved out there when I was 22. And doing really well with work, everything was going great. I was spending money left, right and centre, not really thinking about it. Although I was advising people what to do with their money, I weren't taking my own advice. And my bank account was still increasing, everything was fine. But then my wife and I, we got married and we found out we couldn't have children. So we went through IVF, which is a very expensive game out here in the Middle East. I'm guessing a lot of your listeners will know. And it took we had 5 failed attempts before we were blessed with our twin boys.
Gosh.
And
you can't put a number on that, but we can put a...
I can't put a number on it because I remember how much the number was. But
what was it, about 150, 200,000?
£90,000.
Yikes. And they're here, and that's amazing.
They are, yeah, and we're very blessed and very lucky to have them.
But
during that process, we ran out of money. And at the time, I'd changed companies and the new company wasn't what I expected and the market was down and everything's so expensive. And it was just after the Brexit vote when the pound lost all its value and I was paid in sterling and I was sending money here. So my cost of living went up and I was like, I was in this blame culture, playing the victim. And it was only when I sat back and looked at the huge house I was in, looked at the 2 flash cars on the drive, looked at all these 5-star holidays that we'd been going on and going on the brunches every weekend, that was for me when I really took stock. And I was like, hang on, it's not all these external factors. You've just spent way too much money. And I sat there and, big eye opener for me, I sat there and I worked out what I'd earned as an expat and what I got left as an expat. And therefore, this is how much you have spent in the last few years. And that for me was a big eye opener.
Did you do a little bit of sick in your mouth?
Oh yeah, big time.
Quite a bit. All right.
Yeah.
Well, he's on a mission to help other people do better, maybe even more, earn more, but certainly save more, invest more. We're talking expat wealth this hour with Joe Woodhouse. You can find him on Instagram at Joe_FamilyWealth101. We're going to talk next about the content that he creates that resonates, some of the hate he gets, and of course going to the text line too. So you're more than welcome to reach out anonymously if you prefer on 4001 on the app or the WhatsApp. If you fancy a chat, pick up the phone 04871 5500. Helen Farmer with you. Just a quick reminder, come 4 o'clock, it's Pets and Vets, one of the busiest hours on your radio. We've got Dr. Sergio De Silva on hand. So if you've got any questions about behaviour, health, you are more than welcome to reach out. Cats, dogs, and he's good on an exotic as well. So you can get in touch there. Plus any messages, whether it is a question, a comment or a photo, which you can send through on the WhatsApp, gets you into the draw to win a 3-month supply of Pro Plan pet food. And we're just talking about money matters now, cost of living. It's about time those pets started contributing to household costs, and they can do that. You just need to send us a cute picture of your pet. Joe Woodhouse in the studio. He's a dad of 3, financial planner. He's been in the UAE for decades and then he's back in the UK now, but works with an awful lot of expats. And we're talking about preserving expat wealth and avoiding some of the common pitfalls. Your content, I think, is super relatable. And I think that's why it resonates so well. You know, you're very open about, you know, your own finances, about some of the struggles that people have had. And I wondered, in terms of the content you create for Instagram, Joe, what are some of the videos that have really resonated?
I think people seem to like my direct and sort of simple approach. I mean, I've always been a strong believer of if you can't explain something to an 8-year-old, you don't really understand it yourself.
Yeah.
And my industry is, and don't win me any friends when I say this, but my industry is built on jargon and nonsense and noise.
And sometimes it feels like a bit of a power play that I know what this term means and you don't have any power and I'm basically bamboozling you.
That is exactly it.
To think that you can't do this by yourself.
And that is exactly it. And I started creating this content it was when my boys were born. So when my twin boys were born, they spent a couple of weeks in NICU. And I said to her, look, I'm not, just switch me off while the boys are in hospital. I'm not doing anything. which was great. We could spend as much time at the hospital as possible, but in the evenings, we were doing nothing. And it was actually came on one evening, I'll be honest, I'd had too much wine, and I started Googling things, because I knew then was the time to increase my life insurance. I knew then was the time to start saving for their university, for their education.
Well, this is the thing. You have kids, and responsibility suddenly looms pretty large, doesn't it?
Yeah. But I thought, right, what would a new parent look for online that's not spent the last 10 years in financial services? So I started Googling things, and everything I found either gave me a little bit of information and then put your contact details in to find out more, which I've been in this game long enough to know that means I'm going to get cold called tomorrow. Yeah. Or it'd take me to a 30-page document full of jargon and noise. So I put a bit of a rant out on Facebook with my phone, basically just saying the industry's built this way, it's built on smoke and mirrors, like, why can't things just be straightforward? And it seemed to split the camp. So people from within the financial service industry gave me a lot of flack for it, but a lot of my friends and people that followed me that weren't related to finance, it really resonated with them. And I thought, there's something here.
There's a gap.
Yeah, and that's when I started talking about just basically how to simplify finances, and how if you follow a few simple steps, you can get where you need to be before you need to employ someone like myself.
Well, this is the thing with the best will in the world. Not that many people need specialised advice. Like our situations are not often that complicated. So is that, when you think about hate that you've had, whether it's through comments, is it from within the industry, or are there any topics that people might find a bit emotionally triggering if you're calling people out on behaviours?
Overspending, that seems to upset a few people every now and again. But yeah, like, especially when I started creating the content, I was getting a lot of flack and a lot of hate from people within my industry. Who does he think he is? Like, he's embarrassing himself, he's embarrassing the industry. And not a lot of it, Kate, was directly at me, but it was all third party, and he'd get back to me, and it was just
nasty.
Yeah, playground bullying, really.
Yeah, it is.
But luckily I got couple of good guys in my corner that I used to go to and vent to, and they basically said, look, just ignore them.
You're onto something.
Yeah. And I stuck with it, and yeah, here we are.
We are going to pick your brains between now and 4 o'clock. So if anyone's got any questions, and as we said, it's not about bamboozling. It's about, there's no such thing as a silly question. If you're looking for clarity on a term, or you've got a specific situation you could do with a bit of an expert ear on, 4001. Dina says, hi both, emergency fund query. I'm wondering how married couples are securing their emergency funds via banks. In the past years, my husband and I have saved in personal savings account under my name, but then the pandemic happened. We basically used up our funds, and we're back to saving now. But is it safe to have a savings account in both names? What if something happens?
Okay, so my wife and I, we have a joint savings account, emergency pot in both names. And for me, what an emergency pot is just 6 months' expenses sat in a separate bank account that should there aren't many boilers out here, so that's a bad example, but should the kitchen roof leak?
Yeah. Or AC, air conditioning.
Should the AC go? Yeah. Or basically an expense comes up that you can dip into that instead of having to bounce off credit cards or cash investments in, which either one's going to take you 10 steps back. With regards to sole account, joint account, I would say, look, it depends on how you manage your finances. If you both run things very individually, just keep your own emergency pot. However, if you have everything going to the household and you share the household bills, I would say have a joint savings account. If anything happens to one of you, I would always advise having a will anyway.
We're going to be talking about wills on the show very soon, so we can touch on that. But it's interesting when thinking about where that emergency fund should be. I mean, there are some pretty decent higher interest savings accounts around the UAE right now. I just moved some money around last week, and I was like, actually quite pleasantly surprised. But I'm happy to say me and my husband keep our finances pretty separate. We've got a joint holiday pot that we both put money in, but we've both got our own kind of emergency funds and savings as well. It's super personal, Dina. I think it's if you're going to be worried about it, then if it's, don't do it. If it's worked for you in the past, then go for it. We've got Joe Woodhouse in the studio. We've had questions about getting rid of debt quick. The dream. I love this question from Basim saying, any insights on pocket money for kids? Mine are 5 and 7. They're good kids. I'd like to start some conversations about finances. What does our money man say about that? Basim will be finding out after the latest headlines, plus your chance to win. We have got 4 tickets for you to go and see Cirque du Soleil in Abu Dhabi.
Your ARN News. 8.
Coming your way in half an hour's time, and already photos coming in of gorgeous cats curled up in the sun and dogs listening to the radio. So hi to everyone. It is Pets and Vets. Dr. Sergio joining us just after 4, so get your questions in. And I've got a brilliant prize as well this hour, and a new prize coming your way after 4 too. I have got 4 tickets for you to go and see Cirque du Soleil Crystal. It's coming to the UAE for the first time. A Fire and Ice Acrobats Extravaganza, Etihad Arena on Yas Island from April 26th to May 5th. You can get your tickets now at livenation.me. They've even got an early bird special on. But if you tell me the answer to this question, you are in the draw to win. Now, Crystal is the first Cirque du Soleil production that uses real snow. A team makes approximately how many snowballs each week? Get that number right and you are in the draw. That number, please, to 4001 on the app or the WhatsApp too. Don't forget to put your name on it. And fingers firmly crossed, could be saying your name just before 5. Talking money matters now with Joe Woodhouse. I've had a number of messages asking, where is your guest from on Instagram? You can find him on Instagram at Joe_FamilyWealth101. If you want to send me the word Joe, I will send you that link. He's an award-winning financial planner, lived in the UAE for about a decade, but is back in the UK now and is helping expats become, in his eyes, the goal of being financially free. Now, phone lines are open, as are the text lines. David, how can we help you this afternoon, sir?
I was just wondering what Joe had to say about, things have changed here a little bit in terms of the company taxes and so forth. But for a family, in registering our properties and so forth in a family trust or a company trust or something like that, what's Joe's thoughts on that?
And that would be for assets you've got here in the UAE?
Assets in the UAE, yes.
Okay. All right, Joe. So this is an interesting one because this is something my husband's talking about doing as well, David. He's like, if we start buying a few properties, does it make more sense? Are we more protected to have it as a business rather than it being a personal asset as such? Any take there, Joe, or anywhere we can point David?
I think really you would need to speak to a company that specialises in legal advice regarding wills and trusts here in the UAE. It's not something I would usually get involved with, to be honest. It's not something I advise on a day-to-day basis.
David, we've actually got a specialist on wills coming on next week. She's literally written a book about it, and we've got a lawyer. So Monday afternoon, 4 o'clock, I'll put this to her because I think this is a really interesting one in terms of, as you're saying, kind of future estate planning, but also, kind of the more immediate questions. So thank you for raising it. And if it's
great.
all right, we'll get back to you on
Dan.
Monday. Cheers, David. We've had a message here. We're just talking about emergency funds, saying we had a 6-month emergency fund before we had children. That became a 1-year fund after having 2 children. I love how responsible our listeners are.
Well
Great
done.
shout.
Yeah.
Gold star to you. Can I put this question to you from Bassem? Now, you're a dad of 3.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 2. Any insights on pocket money for kids? Mine are 5 and 7. They're great kids, and I'd like to start some conversations about finances.
Okay, so this is something I try and bang the drum of quite a bit because there is a huge lack of financial education within the education system as a whole. So I think a lot of this we need to teach our own kids. So the things that we do is we try and have open conversations about money. Like when we go for dinner with the children, I give them, granted most of the time it's my card because I don't have that sort of cash on me these days because there is no cash really, but they make the financial transactions. Like little things like when we go to the shops, they get £1 in the UK.
What we're doing in the supermarket at the minute is kind of comparing and contrasting products, saying, this one's got 250 ml in it and it costs this much. This has got, 330.
Okay. Yeah.
Which one do you think is better value? My kids are a little bit older than yours.
Yeah, see, my boys are 5. I've got 5-year-old twin boys. So, like I said, we'll go to the corner shop for them to buy sweets or a chocolate bar and I'll give them £1. And again, it's a big game for them now. We're checking the shelf edge labels and no, that's £1.50. I've not got enough for that. Mm-hmm. So things like that. And we have started not giving regular pocket money, but we pay them for doing chores around the house, just little things like putting pots away, cleaning the dishes, helping mum or dad tidy up. And we incentivise them that so they recognise that money is traded for doing work.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
5 and 7, I think, is a really good age, Bassam, actually. We do give pocket money. I was just showing Joe off air after I saw your message. We use an app called Leap, which is great. They get a card. I think it's affiliated with Mashrek Bank, if I'm not mistaken. So they can go in and make purchases using their card, and then we've both got an app, so the parent account, like a parent wallet, so I can see how much money they've put into their savings, how much money they've got kind of available to them, and if they make a transaction, I can see how much money they've spent in Claire's accessories, buying all sorts of sequined tat. But they can also put kind of savings goals in place, which I think is a really, really nice one. Question here, which is more to do with clearing debt. And I think a lot of people are like, 2024, I'm going to take control of my finances. I'm going to start investing, because I feel like people are starting to realise that actually that's not just for really wealthy people. You know, you can invest a small amount of your salary every month. No Name saying, I'm looking for a clean start. So housekeeping before investing. I've got some credit card debt, small personal loan. Please share advice on the best way to clear debt quickly.
This falls into two camps. So there's one camp that says you should pay off your highest interest debt bearing first. And there's another camp that said you should pay off a method called the snowball method. I'm a fan of this. So what the snowball method is essentially you line all your debts up in size order.
So from smallest amount to biggest, so interest rates not really that.
Forget about interest rates for now.
Okay.
So smallest outstanding amount all the way down to the largest outstanding amount. You make the minimum payment on all of your debts, and let's say the combined minimum payment on your debts is 500 dirham, but you can afford 1,000 dirham a month to pay towards your debt. You pay that additional 500 dirham to debt number one, which is the smallest outstanding.
Get it gone.
Get it gone. Once that's gone, you then move the 500 dirham plus the payment you were paying on debt number one onto debt number two, and you work your way through them like that. For me, and yes, look, if we were robots, the best way to clear your debt would be to clear the largest interest debt first. But we're not, we're humans, and we make silly mistakes. Mm-hmm. And for me, those small financial wins you're getting along the way of, I have 5 debts, I've now got 4. I had 4 debts, I've now got 3.
Yeah, you boost your confidence.
Yeah, and it keeps people going.
Makes sense. All right. Hope that helps. No Name, and all the very best. We've had a message here, and I know we're not talking marriage counselling today, but I feel like, you know...
Might be the wrong person for that.
Stop it. But, you know, money and marriage, my goodness, it can tear people apart. One of the biggest reasons for divorce. And there's no name on this message saying my husband's got a big debt to people over 200,000, whereas I've always been a big saver. It's been creating real tension between us as we can't align financially. He's on restricted income, I'm earning more, so I'm paying more. How can we amend this situation? That's a really big question. I think that's probably more of a sit-down conversation. But if we could speak broadly about, you know, couples having conversations about money from the outset, what advice would you either give your younger self or to anyone that's about to get into a relationship?
I think you've hit the nail on the head with it. That's about having a conversation, not initially clearing that debt off, because you can pay someone else's debt off 7 days a week, but if you're not addressing the underlying problem, it's only going to happen again. Mm-hmm. So, and one of the main causes of divorce, of separation between couples, is financial matters. It's financial stress, and a lot of that comes when you have different financial goals. One may be a saver, one may be a spender. One may want to invest, one may just want to live for today. Mm-hmm. So again, it's about, I suppose there's no right answer, but it's about having that open conversation.
It is, and being aligned from the beginning.
Yeah.
I always feel like, you know, people talk about getting marriage counselling before they get divorced, but a lot of marriage counsellors I speak to say, have the big conversations before the ring is on the finger. Before even, I'm not saying on the first date, what's your attitude towards investing? But certainly when things start to get serious, because the choice you make and who you marry has got such an impact on your wealth and your happiness. Mm-hmm. It really, really does. I'm sorry that we can't help in this situation, but I'm sending you all the very, very best. Joe, to the text line, what about saving for children's futures? Okay. What do you tend to advise? What are you doing with yours? Because they are money sponges.
Yep.
And whether it is looking at, you know, education pots or indeed money for them when they get to a certain age. We've had a message saying, I'm 32, I've got 2 daughters, third on the way, torn about what to do with the children. I invest 10% of my salary for myself. Should I be having a separate portfolio for each child? Okay,
so first thing I would do is work out how much they need. So this is really important. I talk about this a lot. Before you look at investing, I would try and work out what your why is. Why are you investing, and put a goal to it. So if you know your daughters are, how old were the little ones?
5, 7 and 1 on the way.
Right, okay, so 5, 7 and 1 on the way. So you know in 11 years that your eldest will be at university. You know in 13 years your eldest,
Live maths.
your second will be at university. So you know what the goal is. So then it's a case of working out how much that's going to cost you today, then factoring inflation in between now and then. That's your number. This is how much you need when your child is 18, and then funnel that back to today to work out what you need to do to get there. Then you'll know whether or not that 10% not enough, whether it's enough or whether it's too much that you're putting away.
And similar for retirement, presumably, as well.
Exactly
that
the
reverse
same.
engineering.
Exactly the same, yeah.
Maybe my kids just won't go to university. Maybe they'll just start working as soon as possible.
My other tip as well with that, put it in, especially here if you're in the UAE where there's no real tax, you don't need to worry about tax, put it in your name, not the children's.
Okay. Good intel. We've only got a minute left, so I just wondered if you could wave a magic wand over the people of the UAE so they can have a happier, financially healthier, not just 2024, but I guess future. What should we all be doing more of or less of this year?
Pay yourself first. So what I mean by that is have your savings and your investments, leave your account the day after payday, and then you spend what's left.
Automate.
Yes.
Take away those friction points.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. Be nice, isn't it? Just to be like in a year's time to be having this conversation again and have people going, I'm so glad I took some of that advice. In the meantime, though, your Instagram is a great resource for advice and more of this no nonsense chat.
Thank you.
If you want to send me the word Joe, I will send you that. You're in the UAE for just a few more days, but you are doing consultations on Zoom when you're back in the UK as well,
yeah,
right?
and I'm back here on a regular basis as well.
Brilliant. Absolute pleasure to catch up in real life
you.
with Joe Woodhouse, aka Joe_Family Wealth 101. If you want those details, you can contact me on 4001. It's coming up to traffic time. Fantastic to have you with us today. We've got lots to talk about throughout the show and indeed throughout the week as well. Coming up on Monday, for example, we are talking property, whether it is buying to live in, buying for investment, what the rental market is doing. And of course, getting the insider's take on that. So make sure you tune in Monday afternoon, 3:30, as we unlock opportunities in Dubai real estate with House & House. Hopping over now to catch up with Chloe to see what's happening on those roads.